Okay, we're going to call this first ever Board of Select meeting of this group to order now. We're going to start with a call to order and roll call, but before we do that, I just want to say that when you look at the agenda, and I think, did you put some agendas out there, Christine? You'll notice there's a difference in the agenda tonight versus the way it's been. If I had to give you one word on how to sum up the agenda, it's listening. You'll see there's a lot more areas in this agenda that we as a selectmen will listen to the general public. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order now with the roll call of our new first selectwoman, Nicole Porter, new first selectman, Brett Mastriani, and your new, wait a minute, I'm the first selectman. They're the selectman, I'm the first selectman. No, I'm so used to sitting over there. And new first selectman, Bob Carlson, thank you. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We see we brought a flag from the other room. It's going to stay here from now on, so Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next is going to be public comments. When you see public comments, it's going to say for non-agenda items. One thing we agreed to as a board going forward is we'll let you comment on agenda items as we're speaking about them. So once myself and the other two selectmen have said what we wanted to say, I will then open it up to the general public so they can comment on the item while we're speaking about it. You won't have to wait till the end of the meeting. So are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Hearing none, we move on. Another new thing on this agenda is called selectmen comments. There was a point where myself and possibly Nita would want to say something during a meeting when we were in the last group, and we didn't have that opportunity. There was no place for us to speak. So by putting selectmen comments on there, I give both Nicole and Brett a chance to bring something up if they care to, that we can, even though we can't add it to tonight's agenda because it's a special meeting, we can put it on a future agenda, or and then we can bring it up at the next meeting. Or if they might just want to make a comment, something to let the general public know. So I'll ask you both now, is there any comment by the selectmen?
I just wanted to make sure that there were no public comments online before.
Thank you for that. We'll get smoother as we go, I promise. Brett, any comments from you?
I just want to say glad to be here. Thank you. But I'd like to thank the outgoing board. I wasn't at the last meeting and couldn't make it until near the end, but especially Nita for all your years dedication to town. You're in the audience. Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Now the next thing is going to be first selectman report and correspondence. It's not going to be the correspondence similar to if you went to meetings years ago when Nick Mullane was first selectman, he would bring a basket in about a half hour to go through every piece of correspondence. But we're in a different world now because we have email and we don't do a lot of letters and that type of correspondence. But it also gives me a chance to speak about something that might have happened since the last meeting or something that might be coming up prior to the next meeting. So it gives me, instead of doing a Friday announcement, I'm going to have 3 avenues to get information to the public, and this is one of them. I will be doing something on Facebook with the help of Reese Floyd. It's going to be called the First Selectman Billboard. As you drive down the road, you see a billboard. You can't ask it any questions, and it doesn't give you any answers. It just makes a statement, and that's all this is going to do. It's going to make a statement. Those who know me know I don't post on Facebook, but I'll be glad to make a statement, and you can come. I'm going to have my new cell phone number published, and I'm in town hall every day. So you'll have plenty of time to come and discuss it with me. And the last thing is on the website, I talked to Christine about this. Stonington does this. It's called a Selectmen blog. And it's not just me. It'd be myself, Brett and Nicole would have the opportunity. If they wanted to put something on that, they could. So there'll be many ways we can get in touch with the general public without, we just won't be doing the Friday announcement. So if you're used to those, you won't be seeing those. As far as the report tonight, I've got 2 quick correspondence things. This is just about the Christmas celebration coming up on the 5th that you may not have seen. So I'm going to give it to you. Cool. The second thing, which a little bit more, there's going to be some work done on the Verizon tower, cell tower that's on Winterchog Hill. And they wanted to let me know that's going to happen, but they also want to let me know that no one's really going to see any different. They're just upgrading the tower. They're not making it any bigger, any wider. They're not going to take up any more room, but you may see some trucks over there when they start doing the work. And I just wanted to let you two selectmen know that if you get the phone call that says what's going on with the cell tower, they're just doing some work on it, and I'm going to give you a piece of information that just tells you what they're not going to do. Just so there's no surprise down the road. A couple of things I want to work on is when you go into budget season, I think Nita will agree with this. When we were new selectmen, there was a lot of things talked about in the budget process that we weren't aware of. You know, when they talk about different types of fire trucks, different types of trucks at the highway garage, different properties that the town owns. We heard about them, but we really didn't know. I mean, I didn't know there was between a skid steer and unless you're in that business, and a dump truck. So we're going to do some field trips as a group of selectmen. They're going to be called meetings, but they're basically just to go to an area and ask questions and find out what the different equipment is that we own, what it's used for, how many years old it is, why we may need a new one, or can we get by with this one? So it's better to have information before you discuss something, because on paper, it's just a number. But if you can picture it, you saw it, you know what condition it's in. So we're going to be doing things like the North New England Fire Company, the ambulance, highway garage, Hewitt Farm, senior center, transfer station, and town-owned property. Just to start with, we'll see if something else comes up. But if we can do one a week, we'll work around the schedules of the three of us, come up with something that makes sense, and we'll do some field trips. That's all I had for this tonight. Oh, one other thing just came in. I'm sure we're all familiar with the solar array that was proposed for Route 184. Silicon Ranch is the company. The Connecticut Siting Council is the one that makes decide whether they can do the project or not. There was a lot of pushback from our town once we found out what was happening. It wasn't what we thought was originally. Actually, I never saw the proposal until 2 weeks before I came in front of the selectmen, because one of the neighbors had heard about it. So that was a proposal that was not one that the town of North Sorington liked the looks of. And with Juliet's help at the time, other people's help, we were able to fight it back. The town got a favorable decision. It became a 3-3 tied vote, which means they couldn't move forward. We also knew that company that puts a multi-million-dollar project together is not going to just back off and say, okay, I guess we lost that one. So you knew they were going to come back with an appeal. They are coming to meet with myself, the town attorney, and Nate, the land use officer, on Thursday. I don't know what that meeting entails, but it'll be in my old business section of the following meeting. So you will know exactly what they're proposing. There'll be no surprises. And I'm looking forward to see what it is they propose. I'm hoping they're going to propose nothing on the north side and anything they do on the south side. I think that would be a lot more palatable. The thing is, we don't have a lot of power because the siting council tells you they're going to do it. So it's just a matter of hopefully they'll work with us and get it to a location that we can work with them. Not something that you drive down Route 184 and you see solar panels everywhere and it's within a few feet of North Sorington neighbors. It's not, didn't seem fair to me. Can't help house values at all. And you're cutting down trees to put up solar panels. That 15 years ago, they would shoot you for cutting down trees. And now the same people are willing to cut them down and put panels up, which makes no sense. But we'll have the meeting. And then if you come to the next meeting, we'll have a report on what that meeting was all about and what it entails. Guys got anything to say about that agenda item? Okay. Old business, speed humps. We're told they're going to start tomorrow. We'll see. We were told that before. The general contractor let Mike Ergo and Don know that they were going to be in tomorrow to both work on the speed humps and on the roads in Kingswood. So we're supposed to get some mild weather over the next couple of days, so maybe it'll work out, but tomorrow I'll be looking out the window at Town Hall and see if there's anybody out there doing any work. Second old business, we have a special town meeting coming up on November 22nd, which is Monday. It's a town, one thing we got to meet a couple of times before we took office because we weren't seated and we weren't sworn in, which was nice because we could talk about what different ideas we had and things we want to talk about. And one thing we talked about is we thought we had way too many town meetings. You know, I moved to town, we have 2 or 3 a year and they meant something. They seemed to be more important, more people showed up. And usually you could put 2 or 3 or 4 things on a town meeting. We knew we always had one during budget season and typically we'd have one in October. But we've had a lot. And I think some of it had to do with the ARP funding because we're asked about funding and, you know, 20,000 here and 20,000 there rather than bigger amounts. But I think this one here, we're gonna have on Monday, it's on the truck for the town garage. It's been approved by the Board of Selectmen, the last Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. And I had asked to get this town meeting in because it's old business. I want to get it done. It's part of the last regime and we want to start out fresh. So, and it's time sensitive because it's a truck that's going up to the highway department and we know winter's coming. So we'll do this meeting next Monday. Just to remind you, if you want to vote at the meeting, you have to register. And I also found out, because my wife told me, you can't vote if you're using a phone. You need to be on a Surface or a laptop or a computer. So if you want to vote, don't be on the phone and register by 12 o'clock on Monday. I expect it to be a quick meeting. It's only one item again, the truck that Don Hill will come and do a presentation on it again. You'll see the town does need the truck. We spoke about it at the last Board of Selectmen meeting. I felt that I didn't like the way that it came about. I thought it was circumventing the budget system. I think there should have been more passion for this truck back when we did the budget. If we would have all seen the pictures and the Board of Finance saw the pictures back then, I think that might have been a different decision and it would have been in the original budget. So then you as a taxpayer would know it was there. But to not be in the budget and then come back 3 or 4 months later, it just doesn't seem the way we want to do business. But and we're going to try not to let that happen in the future. But at the same token is we do need this truck. When you see the pictures, it's amazing how bad it is. Actually, right now, nobody wants to drive it. So that'll be on Monday, the 22nd at 7 o'clock in this room.
Bob, that's a really quick turnaround time. How can we get the word out to people to let them know?
Well, we let this was announced at the last Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay.
So it has been out there for a couple of weeks, but I don't expect a big turnout for 2 reasons. One, it's only got one item. Second, we have so many town meetings. They don't seem to be as important as they were in the past. And that's why we need to correct that. If we can get it down to maybe 2 or 3 town meetings a year, I think it would be a better thing.
Yeah.
But we're just trying to clean up an old
Okay.
issue. But it's only been 2. I don't think we've got much response online. That's why I mentioned it again tonight to try to, nothing worse than when you see something like a $53,000 expenditure approved by 15 people, So that's something I like to see, but that's the way
Yeah,
town
I'm
meetings work.
totally in favor of not having a lot of town meetings so that they do kind of mean more and we can try and get a better participation. Is there an opportunity to use the sandwich boards that we use for voting for a town meeting? Is that something that we normally do? I'm trying to remember on our corner.
We haven't,
seen them.
but we could. I mean, it's no reason. We just got 6 more of them, I believe. So it is a possibility to do that, to get those out. But we have to have so we own the boards. I think Jimmy Russell does the paper. He can do it on his computer, print it, and we can slide it in. It's a very economical way to do things. And we could try to get the boards out. Well, the meeting's on Monday, so we'd have to get them out.
Even if it's Monday.
I'd have to say town meeting Monday the 22nd, but maybe we might be able to get them out by the weekend. All right, I'll talk to Christine tomorrow and Jim Russell, see how quick he can turn around the papers. I think it's pretty quick.
Is it on the digital sign as well? Do we put our town meetings on the digital sign here?
We can. Who do we see to do that, Christine? All right, so maybe
I think the school.
school. So I can look into that tomorrow, maybe Robbie McCarthy. I'm not sure, but let me just make a note to do that. Okay, agenda format and meeting times. So we already talked a little bit about the format and how it's changed. Excuse me, you know what, let me back up. Does anyone have any questions on agenda items that we've spoken about so far, since I was supposed to let you do that before? Yes, Sean.
Concerning the town meeting next Monday, with the truck, one of the questions I have that is, no, it's replacing a truck that is in terrible condition. Do we need that many trucks? I think we should have an answer for that on Monday night. Do we need that number of trucks? What trucks are used to match up with how many routes?
Mhm.
Plowing routes? And what would the effect be if we were to reduce I wonder that one truck covers more area? We tend to have a lot of vehicles in town compared to other towns our size. And so I think this is an opportunity to look at that, see whether we need a new truck or not. Or is this time to consolidate the route?
I can ask Don those questions to have it part of his presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other, Gary? Time out 1 second. They should probably be using the, sorry, Gary. Is there people?
Sean's voice carried us out, so.
Okay, the meeting agendas and the meeting minutes, can we have a little bit more content? The meeting agendas of the past were a little staccato, not necessarily discussing or covering what was going to be discussed. It was just a broad statement. If we could have, as the public, a little bit more color around it, and the same thing with meeting minutes, it might be helpful.
Okay, I agree. I mean, it makes sense to me on especially in the agenda. So why come to a meeting if you don't know what's on it?
Which is why I don't think many people have come in the past, because it was a very generic topic, not getting into what was actually
As
discussed.
far as the minutes, it's a slippery slope when you go in minutes on how detailed you want to get. I mean, we could do every public comment in detail, and that gets, I mean, now you get 5 or 6 pages of minutes. So, but I agree with you on the agenda part. When it comes to the minutes, we'll try to make them as complete as possible, but you really don't, especially now that you can watch the meetings.
You can.
Yeah, YouTube. Every meeting, you can, every board of selectmen meeting you can watch.
So if we could just get the salient points, it would help.
I understand.
Thanks.
Yes, okay, thank you. Any other comments? Agenda format and meeting times. We discussed moving the meetings back to 6:30, starting next year, correct? We only have 2 more meetings. If we make those, we can make those 6:30, but they become special meetings because the last Board of Selectmen already approved the meeting dates and times for this past year. Or we can just do the last 2 meetings, which is next week and the 14th of December at 6, and start going into a 6:30 meeting time after the first of the year. And any comment on that?
I'm good with that.
Okay, so we'll leave it the way it is for now, and we'll go to 6:30. We're going to do our meetings still on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. Okay, next week, then Christina will bring a new meeting calendar, and we'll just have to vote on it. So we have it for next year. And we're going to try to keep our meetings pretty much on a regular basis, not have it a moving target. We're not going to try to have too many meetings other than Tuesday nights, second and fourth Tuesday of the month. So you won't be seeing 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the afternoon meetings if we can help it. Unless there's a big emergency that we have to, but as of right now, it's not part of what we want to accomplish, so. Anybody have any information on, any questions on meeting nights or any comments? Okay. Community conversation, number 8. 298 Norwich Wesley Road and American Rescue Plan. So anyone that was around back in 2013, community conversations were pretty in-depth. They usually were on a Saturday morning. We get anywhere from 75 to 100 people to attend. Typically, sometimes we could get a grant and get some food at the event. And it would be a presentation that would be just strictly fact. It wouldn't be a presentation to try to sway anyone's thoughts one way or the other. Then there would be a breakout session in the small groups, maybe 6 to 8 people. There'd be flip charts and signboards. There'd be a writer and a moderator. The moderators would be trained prior to the meeting. And then if we did the main meeting here and broke out into some of the classrooms and had a moderator and a writer in each classroom, then they would hang on the wall the pages that they flip on the flip charts and write down the ideas. And then they come back to this room and we would discuss. Each group would have a leader that would discuss what they came up with. It's the best way to really get feedback from voters, from town residents. And we want to do that on this building, the 298 building, on what we want to do. What do we want to take down? What do we want to leave? What do we want to use? The pot that's left, do we want to take it all down, a portion of it? And when we take it down, what do we do with the property that used to be there underneath it? Do we want to make it a green area? Do we want to make it a soccer field? Do you want to move parking around to better, to work better with both us and the library, because we know they have parking issues over there. So these are the type of things that we hope that the groups would meet. If I do the presentation, I will keep it strictly factual and not what my agenda is on it. We all have thoughts on what would be maybe the best thing to do. But I think in this particular case, it's not I'm not supposed to do that during the presentation. You, the people in the groups, are supposed to come up with the ideas, bring it back to us, and we have a final presentation at the end. After we did that, we would bring it to a town meeting and then probably a referendum. Then we can get something finally done with both this building and on the ARP funding. We're getting asked, it's like if you win the lottery and every charity comes out of the woodwork and they say, hey, you just won $5 million. You know, I would love to have 20,000 of it for this. That's the way it's been approached. People know, groups know that all these towns and cities have a lot of money available to them. The best thing to do, I think we all agree on this, is to come up with a comprehensive plan on what to do with the remaining funds and then put that into play. And that way, if someone does come up and say, you know, I could use 20,000 for this organization, we'd say, well, we'd love to give it to you, but we don't have it. We've already, all our funds are committed. And I think the town should make a decision on how we commit those funds using the parameters that the state gave us. You know, the funds can only be used for certain things. And I know other towns and cities have kind of pushed the limits on what they could do. But I think we want to be as close to what the idea was for the funds in the first place. Help those who need help. Do things in town that make sense. Things that wouldn't typically be part of your budget, but things that make sense for the town, that fall in the guidelines of what the state has given us. So that meeting would probably be on a Saturday morning. It would probably start from 9, go from 9 to 12, maybe go 9 to 10:30 and then 10:30 to 12, small break in between. We have since put together a community conversation committee. It's a lot of the same people that were doing it back in 2013. Lisa Marzella was on that, and she still has all her old notes. She knows exactly how it's going to be done. So far in that committee, we have, besides Lisa Marzella, we have Stephanie Mastriani, Breeze Floyd, and Nicole, and Nita Kincaid. And did anyone speak to Laura Tillinghouse? Did you? And is she going to be on it? Okay, so we got 4 so far. Are you looking for additional committee members or no? The nice thing about this committee and getting it done right, and we really haven't done a true community conversation. We've done some versions of one, I guess, but a true one we haven't done in a number of years. we know the plan of conservation and development is coming up over the next year. So to get this committee now, it almost gives them a kind of a fresh start to get this thing formulated, because we know we're going to have more community conversations once we work on POZD. So do you guys have any comments on that, on the community conversation?
What was the date that we,
Right now, tentatively January 8th.
okay. And I just wanted the public to know, when we discussed this a little bit, we know that 298 is a major concern. I think we all heard it out on the campaigning. But we felt that pushing this till January and not trying to rush a December meeting to just get something in was the right thing to do. It's been going on this long. Another month won't kill us. But it will get more buy-in from the public. And that's really what the goal of this is to get people to attend this, get the community, the information from the community about what they would support, really, because ultimately they're going to have to vote on it. So we all felt that it was important not to try to rush this. Originally, when we discussed it, we said, okay, December we should get one going in December because it's so important. But ultimately, we do that and 4 people would show up probably. So this gives the committee, who've all been involved before, the time necessary to get the right people in place, open it up to the general public, but also, just for people that don't know, they also target different groups in town to get a vast array of members to participate. So you can hear from all different groups, and then it's open to the general public too, to come in, but at least it's targeted, so we hear from different groups. So you hear from, people with kids in the school system, you hear from seniors, so it's a good mix. But I just wanted to let everyone know that's why it's January. We know it's a major priority, but that's why it's a month and a half out.
Nicole?
And I think we just talked about having the options and proposals with the most accurate estimates of dollars attached to each one, so that people in those conversations could have the most up-to-date information and options to make the best decision for suggestions. So that will be one of our commitments, is to come prepared with those proposals with accurate dollar signs attached to it.
Agreed. Okay, nothing else anybody wants? Nita? As male participants in the committee? No, because it doesn't mean we can't.
Well, I was on.
Yeah, why don't you, since you're on the committee?
So I think that, yes, that was made up of a few of us, but then there's a much larger group of people that we're looking to engage in helping with the conversation. So we need moderators, we need reporters, we need people working on logistics. And so that's the committee will reach out to, bring language and so. But I think the basic experience is.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so there'll be a lot of information coming down the pike in the next few weeks on this. And as we get closer to January 8th, I will try to, as Nicole said, get all the numbers buttoned up. We have some renderings that were done earlier. But we get some fresh numbers on what the actual numbers will be on tear downs. And again, we as a board will not try to force our agenda on anyone. It's the town's agenda. We will just, once the town speaks and we know what the town wants to do, then it's our job to get that done. So, thank you. Code of Ethics Commission. As you know, the last Board of Selectmen voted to adopt a code of ethics, and then we brought it to a town meeting, and the town meeting approved it. So part of the code of ethics is to form a commission. And there was some thought that we weren't going to be able to get people to be on the commission. So the commission, I talked to the fellow who runs, He's the chair of the commission in Preston, and they meet once a year in January. The first year, he said that they met 2 or 3 times because people didn't really know how to use the code of ethics and what it was about. And that's why you go to the initial complaint goes to our attorney for an advisory to say, yes, this has enough meat in it, you should move forward with the commission, or this is frivolous, you should probably drop it at this point. There's nothing here. So the commission meets typically in January and they vote on offices. And then if there's anything to be heard, they'll hear it. If not, something may come up during the course of the year. They'll have to convene and hear that. The commission is made up of 5 full-time members and 3 alternates. It's a 3-year term. But since we're forming it, we'll probably, according to what we approved, we're going to form it to have 2 people at 1 year, 2 people at 2 years, and 1 person at 3. So as the commission is their term runs out, we won't have to replace 5 people every time at once. I've already had some people reach out to me about being on this, about 4 people actually. We'll have this committee, it'll be a true committee that will be formed, that will be, Antoinette will have to handle setting up as a true committee with members in terms like we just said. We'll have, if you go to town hall, apply, and then the board of selectmen will vote to appoint these people. I'm just going to have for Brett and Nicole, this is the part of the code of ethics that has the verbiage on how we do it. I would say that I'll speak to Antoinette tomorrow. If you have any interest in being on this commission or you want to know more about it, you can either speak to me at town hall, get a hold of Christine, or go in and see Antoinette and get an application. And we'd be glad to entertain it for appointment. Any questions on that, Charlie? Which committee is that? We haven't formed it yet. When did you have it? Oh, really? So, yeah, so I don't know anything about that committee, Charlie. It was never brought up before, but I'd be happy to have you be appointed to the new committee if you want to apply. So, okay. Thank you. Sure.
The full code of ethics is posted on the town clerk website. So if anybody's looking for the information about the duties or just the full code that was approved at the last town meeting, that is posted on the town clerk's website.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Any other questions on the commission? Okay. Appointed committees and terms. This is something that's we spoke about. We actually found out about that some of our committees that are appointed, the people are out of term. I think I'm gonna have Brett Mastriani, who's done some looking at this too, if you can report on this, Brett.
Yeah, so looking at the appointed committees, there's some that we really have to work on quickly. And I'll just go through them. So on the appointed committees, ones that aren't an issue right now are affordable housing. There's only 5 members on, but there's 10 available spots there. Aquifer Protection Agency, they're good with all their appointments are up to date. The Cemetery Commission, there are 1, 2, 4 members that are still serving on that board that aren't really appointed. So that's one that we have to reach out to these members, see if they still want to be on it, and whatever that process is that we want to do. I know when I was appointed to the school building committee ad hoc back in 2008, actually Bill Ricker reached out to me and talked to me to see if I wanted to be on it, or heard I wanted to be on it and interviewed me or just talked to me. But in this instance, I think it might be best to reach out to the chair people of that committee that are on, and then maybe even reach out to those members to see if they really want to still be on compared to just reappointment. Center for Emergency Services Building Committee, that one is no longer in existence, correct, Christine? Communications Committee, same thing, no longer. Conservation Commission, they're all good now. They were updated recently. Some don't have term limits, just so you know, but a big concern, there's two that I have. The Hewitt Farm Committee, nobody is technically on that committee as of now. All their terms have expired in 2020, which the reason that it's a concern that we need to act fact on is because if there's no one technically appointed, anything they decide or rule on technically can be pushed back on us because there's nobody appointed. It's just like if there was an election and nobody ran, doesn't mean you just can come into a meeting and make decisions. So that's a big one. Need is here. So like I said, everybody expired in February 5th of 2020 on that committee.
Okay, good.
Well,
Okay.
the Board of Selectmen have to appoint.
Right. So you're going to come up with the names, see if somebody still wants to be on and bring them to it. Thank you.
All right. Perfect. The Historic Village Improvements Committee,
Done.
okay. Inland Wetlands,
You should be good.
there's a few vacancies there, but everybody that's on there currently is still good. Sustainability Committee, there's no term limits on that one. Same with the Traffic Subcommittee. Did I flip? Which one did I might have them out of order here. Oh, Juvenile. So the Rec Commission is another one of concern. Pretty much, there's only one member, Jim Holdridge, that is a member. Everyone else term is expired. They're 2-year terms. So those have expired. What was interesting, I went to town hall today to try to look up. So for instance, Emily Mastriani and Megan Perkins, we don't have a date when they started. I looked back in the minutes and there's no minutes filed for 2015. So I can see them active in January of 2016, but I don't know when they got on. Antoinette doesn't have that. That's before her time too. So something like that, it might be prudent for us to talk to them and then reappoint the whole board at the same time. That way the dates are consistent. So I had a few talks with Antoinette and she's great. We went through a lot of this and she would like this all cleaned up. So then every year we look at this, or however we put in alerts to know when these are up, so we don't fall into that problem again. The next one, the school repurposing, they're done as well. The modernization, they're still active because we haven't closed it out. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Water Pollution Control Authority, that's another big one that I have a concern about, that technically there are no members of that committee right now, and they have a meeting Thursday. So I don't know if you want to,
If I'm going to that meeting, I'll bring that up.
what the problem is, if they're voting on anything at that meeting, now that we know it's an issue, we should try to correct that right away. So
There's nothing on the agenda for voting, but I'll bring it up with them because they have to set their own dates for next year too. So
but see, they shouldn't, legally, they can't set their dates if they're not an active
Agreed.
committee. So we could appoint them tonight if you're comfortable with that whole board, because on the agenda, we have appointed committee in terms, so you can do that. Or you want to talk to them.
So when
I guess one more meeting's not gonna make that big
So
of a
we're
difference.
meeting next Tuesday anyway, so they're meeting Thursday. So why don't we talk to them Thursday? I'll have them not vote on dates. Appoint them next Tuesday and then they can do their dates.
Perfect. And those are 2-year terms as well.
Mhm.
Education Center Subcommittee, that's gone. And the Civil Preparedness Advisory Council,
Charlie was on that.
what's that?
Charlie was on that, I think.
Yeah, there's quite a few
Where?
people, but I don't know. So it looks like the terms are 1 year from what I see here. But I don't, those all expired in 2019, but they're all pretty much people that would stay on there. I mean, we have Gary Barron. Well, you had someone from the Communications Committee, but Christine's on there, Jason McCarthy. So our resident trooper, our highway foreman, our IT person, Charlie Steinhardt, James Tuttle, and the first selectman. So I don't know if that's really an appointed.
I'll take a look at that one because there's an ordinance that goes with it. So we can just put appointments on the agenda for next week and I can have a list of for that specific one, who the place people should be based on the ordinance.
Perfect. And then,
That goes more by position than it does by person, correct? Just thought so.
and then the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Bob, you were on that committee?
I was. Okay.
I've never heard of that committee until I looked at this list.
Who was on it with me?
Mark Grigg, Nita, you're on there as well. Bill Ricker and Mike Ergo was on there. And they expired in 2019.
So maybe that was something that all selectmen are automatically on it. So now you and Nicole are on it?
Yeah, I don't know on that one.
I'll add that to my list of what to look at.
All right.
Perfect.
And then, so the Southeastern Connecticut Water Authority, our town rep was Nick Mullane. It says it expires in 2021. There's no actual date on that, but it's 2021. And it's a 5-year term.
Yeah. We just reappointed 2 members to that.
Well, that's separate.
There is,
So there's a town rep and the rep advisory board.
with the rep advisory boards who we just reappointed.
Yeah, that was Bob Boisman and Michael Messina.
Correct.
So the town rep is the one that there's a vacancy, or Nick Mullane's on there until, I don't know if it's the end of this year, just says expires 2021.
I'll give Nick a call.
And then Christine, you might know the answer of this one. So we have a town historian, there's no expiration date on that one, but the tree
Town
warden,
what?
historian,
Oh, okay.
and then the tree warden, who's our assistant foreman.
Hmm.
Is that really a term or is that?
That one I'll check on too. I started because I don't honestly know why that would expire. I think it's something we have to register that person with the state.
Right.
So that's probably where that date comes in. So I'll see where we're at with that. I know it still is Joe, but.
Okay. All right, and that's it. But if we can get this cleaned up and then keep an eye on it, so we're not 2 years out with meetings of.
Yep, so if we can create some kind of a spreadsheet that alerts us when somebody is up. And then maybe what we do is keep it as a standing agenda item on our, if there's nobody to appoint, fine. But if so, it's on our agenda and we can just appoint and clean it up and keep it cleaned up.
Yeah, and Antoinette's fantastic. She really is. She gets everything done. She gets every question answered. And this is something I think that just some of this was before her time, that she had to try to backtrack and find when people were appointed. And then, like I said, I went into all the old minutes, which I tell people, if you ever have time, go through some of those old committee minutes. There are some amazing things that they did in 1975 about town hall that I read about. Actually, Nick Lane was on that committee back then. And all their minutes, all their history of how they got to these decisions were there. So that's it for the appointed commissions. Do you want me to talk about the boards of commission vacancies?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the elected boards. What's that here? So right now we have on EDC, we have a full spot and a alternate spot up, and those are technically Democrat spots as of now. And the other one, like I said, affordable housing, well, that's not elected. I lost my page, there's so many notes here. Oh. Zoning Board of Appeals alternate, there's a vacancy there for a Democrat or eventually or an unaffiliated. So nobody ran for that spot. And then, do we know about Jennifer Pensa? Has she technically resigned yet? Anybody? No. Okay. So there's a potential for an alternate spot on P and Z, but right now it's no. So those are the only ones. But EDC, alternate and full members, and then planning and zoning potentially. But ZBA is the one that's vacant right now.
Thank you. Any comment on vacancies for elected boards or appointed boards? Sure.
So the procedure that was followed by the last board was that the applications would be sent to the town clerk. She would distribute them to the appropriate parties. The board would decide who they wanted to recommend to fill the vacancy, and then the Board of Selectmen would vote to if they would approve that person. Is that the same procedure that we're going to follow with the new board?
I would imagine so. Do you have any reason not to follow that?
So the only thing that actually the Board of Ed spoke about it and voted on it is prior to this process, you would get endorsement from that party. So it would, if there was a Democrat vacancy or a Republican vacancy, you would, so even if you had the application process, you would go to that party and say, does this party endorse this candidate? And then it would go to the selectmen, and the selectmen could either go with that or go with someone else, but it showed that they were endorsed by the party. Board of Ed put that in their policy recently after their vacancy, because one of the concerns was, okay, if this is 3 months before an election and we seat that person, but it didn't get a party endorsement, now they have to get their party endorsement to run. Those people might not get seated again, or might not get endorsed by their party. So it was only just pretty much a checklist to say, okay, the party supports that person in this role because it mirrors most like the election process.
I think if we were in a different time when we had people coming out of the woodwork to participate in town organizations, I can see that. But where do the unaffiliated people go to make it known that they are interested in an appointment of some commission or board? I think at this point, I am in favor of anybody and everybody coming forward that is interested. And then they fill out an application. It comes to us and we take a look at what's on the application and try and make the best decision. I would love a life where we have multiple people all vying to be on boards and commissions.
The only caveat to that is that doesn't technically always work, because there are, so like the EDC position, for instance, right now we can't seat an alternate
Oh, so
because it's a Democrat spot.
totally
It has to
controlled
go
by,
through.
yep, controlled by a party. I think that has to happen.
So for 90 days, you have to, which isn't great because 90 days to me seems like a long time to leave a spot open if you can't. So those are the ones where it used to go back to the party. So it used to, and I'm not saying you shouldn't open it up to unaffiliated, all those people. But that was the process, because come election time, that's how it worked.
How does an unaffiliated though how do they go through the process if they're interested?
So an unaffiliated would submit an application just like that, but if it was a vacancy caused by someone resigning that wasn't elected, if it was an elected position, then it has to go to that party for that period of time. That's just this.
I think that's only on EDC. I think that's specifically written into the ordinance for EDC.
It's a few different committees.
And aren't there regulations that if nobody after a certain amount of time in that party have come forward, that it can be opened up
Yeah,
to?
that's what he's
Oh,
saying.
yeah,
now,
To
90 days,
anybody?
90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, there's different committees in their bylaws. That's how it's written.
My only comment is that I didn't want to put so many, not barriers, but so many steps in the way of getting people involved in town that people are like, oh, forget it. I mean, up until a couple of years ago, I didn't even know that we had a DTC in town. So there are a lot of people that are out there that might want to come forward that don't necessarily feel comfortable being endorsed by I just don't want to put so many barriers in place. I'm not opposed to the process that was in place before. I just want to make it as simple and easy for people. And then if we can get to a point where in the future, we have so many people and we want to go back to having them endorsed, I'm all in favor for that. I just want to remove the barriers to get people involved.
I mean, you want as many people involved, especially when there's vacancies as possible. It's just, I just worry about that time when it's near an election. They don't get endorsed and how that works. That's
Yeah,
why
no,
I think the Board of Ed put it as that they would weigh that in, but it wouldn't be the only.
Yeah, I mean, in my perception has been that Board of Ed is it's a hot committee. It's a committee that a lot of people are interested in for really, really good reasons. So we have good interest in it. And I think that they have to put regulations in place and stipulations in place that say, we're going to go with the party endorsed person. So I don't know if we can have any kind of a hybrid model. I just, for those boards and commissions that are popular for whatever reason, I can see it. I think we have work to do, obviously, by evidenced with the election and not even being able to put enough candidates forward to fill all the vacancies. I like to see us do some work first before having something that strict.
Agreed. Good points. Thank you, Nicole. Any comment from the attendees tonight? Anything online? I haven't asked you, Christine,
We just got a hand up now, so do you want me to recognize?
sure.
Brian Rathman, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, you can hear me?
It's,
Okay. On the different committees, it'd probably be helpful if some committees are just advisory board. Well, I shouldn't say just advisory boards, but they're advisory boards and some of them have authority. If you can somehow just mention that when people read about the committees or what they want to be on or what they want to apply for, I think it would be helpful. And the other thing is if we can get a lot of the committees that have several members, if you can get them so you have representation from different parts of the town, not just one solid area. That's my only comment on the committees. Thanks.
Thank you.
Brian, this is Nicole. I completely agree with you. I live for the day when we can seek out multiple different people in town to serve so that it's diverse boards. Right now, some of our boards and commissions are struggling, so I think we need to just get the word out there that it's a really cool thing to do. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't join the communications committee and not know what the heck I was doing a couple of years ago. So it's not so scary and you get to meet a lot of new and interesting people.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seth?
And I know that the Board of Ed works a little bit differently than other boards and commissions in town. The reason why we chose to go the route that we did was because we wanted it, whoever was filling the vacancy on the board, left in the middle of the term, we wanted it to mimic closely election. So for example, if the person who was on board was a Democrat, was a left-handed Democrat, then left the board. The town of the Democrat want to make sure that we did everything that we could. Now, we were really uncomfortable with the idea of applications coming in us, and as a board, us deciding who would go that road, because that doesn't make sense. As a board, we are really not to choose who should fit well with us. It's the council, and so in an election, it goes to some sort of office or appointment, and then they would put that person forward, and that would go. So that's how we got to where we were. We wanted to be careful that we weren't putting too many steps in place to make it look different than it was elected. And thinking, sort of regret that if we did something like that and then come election time, maybe for our system differently, we could unseat a person, put a new person in, because parents often. We did discuss the idea of how would that person access the board, and that person sort of come right in and apply if that seems like an unaffiliated. Both parties will speak if we wanted to, so that's sort of how it works with the problem. We spent a couple of months on it. It's a pretty
Okay, thank you, Steph. Any other comments? Hearing none. We're at public comment on pretty much anything at this point, on agenda items, non-agenda items. It's the end of the meeting type of public comment. So does anyone have anything they wanted to add, anything they'd like to see on the next meeting's agenda? Anything online? Okay. Next meeting will be next Tuesday at 6 PM here. That will be added to the agenda next week as a line item. Also, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting has ended at, I've got 6:57. Thank you.